Bem-vindos à Sociedade das Nações, um programa semanal sobre a atualidade internacional aqui na SIC Notícias. Hoje sem o Martim Cabral. Entre guerras longínquas, ameaças várias, recuperação e esperança, os Estados Unidos celebram mais um dia nacional, 234 anos depois da independência. Da política Obama às relações com Lisboa, sobretudo tendo em conta a visita ao nosso país do presidente americano em novembro, há muito para falar com o novo embaixador dos Estados Unidos em Portugal, Katz. Hello, Ambassador. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tell me one thing. So many years after independence, what does it mean to be an American?
It means to be very proud of a country that began a tradition which so much of the rest of the world has embraced as it relates to the whole concept of people having certain basic rights. Other countries along the way have joined us. Portugal's 100th year of its republic this year is a good example. But it really means, I think, to be very proud of the fact that we are very involved throughout the world. And I think at this point in our lifetime, and particularly with our new president, I think that we have embarked on a whole new way of dealing with the world, which basically is in a collaborative effort, and a willingness to work together, perhaps in ways that we haven't always in the past.
But how do you explain the wave of a certain anti-American feeling that let's say, passed through the century, still exists in lots of Latin American countries? I mean, the Americans go home still exists in lots of walls. Is America an empire that doesn't recognize himself as an empire?
Well, I think several things happened. I think that America took a growing role throughout the world once it left its period of isolationism. And the isolationism really ended, I think, finally after World War II. That was basically very clear to America at that point that they could no longer exist strictly within America.
Right.
And along the way, we did many things, I think, that really helped the world. We helped rebuild Europe, the Marshall Plan, and sometimes along the way, we did things that weren't particularly good, and we didn't do them because we wanted to do things that weren't good, but they didn't turn out particularly well.
You mean mistakes?
We made mistakes, and what happens really is that...
Some people say that you also made crimes.
Well, I would argue with that. Crimes generally require, and now I'm a lawyer speaking, intent.
Yes.
And I think that the intent was basically to do things that would make the world a safer place for more people.
Tell me one thing. You are the American ambassador in Lisbon. How important is Portugal for Obama's foreign policy?
I think Portugal...
Does it exist?
Okay, the answer is yes, first of all, and I think that it is significant and potentially even more important than it has been in the past, particularly with this president. This president understands the fact that not only is it important because, like the United States, Portugal was a founding country of NATO, but Portugal's unique relationship with Lusophone Africa, the unique relationship with Brazil, creates all kinds of different opportunities for the United States and Portugal to work together. And I think that it's very clear that this administration is aware of that. And we also recognize, again, how you work with people as opposed to expecting people to do exactly what you want them to do.
There are people that say that there is also another dimension, which is the reliance on green energies and the renewable energies that has been a trademark of the Obama speech. Mm-hmm. If not reality, I don't know, but at least the speech has been dominated by green energies. And as you know, in Portugal, we also think we could be the hub of renewable energies. Do you think that that creates also a link?
I think it creates a great opportunity. I think Portugal, frankly, has done a remarkably good job in this area and continues to do better. The United States in the past has not done a particularly good job, but there's clearly a heightened awareness, and this administration is pushing very hard to expand the use of green energy in our country and around the world.
You come from an area of Florida where, where the Portuguese came long ago. I mean, we used to call it Florida, the flowered one. But in other parts of the United States, you have lots of Portuguese communities. You have it in New Bedford, you have it in San Diego, Newark. Do you think that the Portuguese in the United States are relevant politically or not?
I think that they are, certainly in particular locales, as you say, that you have a concentration of Portuguese Americans in the New England area, right, and in California, and then other pockets throughout the United States. But I think that Portugal and the United States, the alliance and the role the Portuguese have played in certain key parts of the United States makes America very sensitive to Portuguese Americans, as we have, so many other groups that have come from different parts of the world. Remember, America in its own way is the ultimate melting pot. We have had more people from more places, and in that way we are very unique European countries, most people trace themselves back to many centuries. And in America, most of us, our ancestors came over on a boat.
But Portuguese, for instance, as a language never entered into your schools as a major language, I mean, like Spanish, for instance.
I think, no, that's true. Now, there are a growing number of Portuguese programs in a number of places, some of which are supported actually by by FLAD here in like the University of Notre Dame and other places. But I think that what you have is, because I think of the concentration of Portuguese in specific areas as opposed to sort of spreading out throughout the United States, the potential to have Portuguese in the schools probably was not as great. You have Hispanics from all kinds of different Latin American countries who speak Spanish throughout the United States. And perhaps if there were a large number of Portuguese-speaking non-Portuguese, Brazilians, Angolans, et cetera, it would be different.
Very recently, a group of Portuguese companies went to the United States to do a sort of a road show to show that Portugal is maybe not so bad in terms of economic and financial health. Do you think it was a successful tour?
I think that it was a very good first start. I've been a very strong advocate of...
First start.
It was
so
very important.
It has to be continued?
Yes, it was very important that they did it. And the reason that it was so important, and the reason that I've been trying to sort of talk to a variety of different people, both in the United States and other places, is I believe what Portugal started to do in 2005 with their economy in terms of the pension reform and a wide variety of other reforms that has not been recognized by the markets. And so what happens is that Portugal, who did so many things that some countries are talking about now, maybe they're going to do. I mean, France is talking about, can they raise the retirement age from 58 to 62? Well, Portugal already did that.
Why didn't the markets recognize it? Are the markets dumb?
Well, two things. First of all, I think the markets have a tendency to, particularly in times of economic turmoil, to react to what's happened in the last 5 minutes as opposed to the last 5 years. And I think that's a problem. I think the rating agencies have been very reluctant to find themselves in the same situation that helped create the huge crisis that we had, and so they've been overly conservative. I think that Portugal's economy in the context of the whole Eurozone is a small enough piece that it's very difficult to get the financial markets to focus and concentrate on exactly what Portugal's situation is, because the economy is not that big. I think, though, that the government is trying very hard to do this. And I believe that there's a very important story to tell. It doesn't mean the Portuguese economy doesn't have problems. It just means that they are not to the degree that they are for Greece and other countries.
So what would you advise? Better public relations strategy, better lobbies in the United States?
I think part of what really happens is this. I think that it's important for Portugal to continue to take the message that they brought to New York and to continue to bring it to the world outside of Portugal. I think they do to London and to New York, where the financial markets really are, to in effect force the financial analysts to stop and sort of say, no, wait, I guess we really have to look at this. We cannot, this word pigs, you know, it sort of encompasses so much, and it's easier to use that word.
A new word, maybe.
You know, it's easier to use that word than it is to distinguish among the countries.
You are a truly unique animal, political animal. You were an Obama insider in Florida. That was considered Clinton territory. But you saw the growth of the Obama momentum, the Obama effect in the American politics. Do you think it still exists? Because people say that Obama is like really losing its historical weight. I mean, it doesn't have any respect from generals, from Iran, from Israel, from BP.
Well, first of all, I'm not sure I would agree with all those characterizations.
Looks
However,
like Rodney Dangerfield.
No, I think that what happens is this. I cannot recall a time when a president has faced more problems at the same time than Barack Obama has faced since he took office. And what happens is that, frankly, the collapse of the economic system was averted. Now, for which he receives no credit, but the reality is if we hadn't had someone like him there, Lord only knows where we might be economically. The BP, the oil spill, dealing with health care, taking on financial reform, doing all the types of things, dealing with the Iranian situation. The Mideast is never simple, but because he has decided to become engaged in all of these various areas, what happens is that none of these problems are easy. They're not going to be solved in a year because it took more than a year to create them. And so what happens is that he is, I believe, engaged in so many things for which there are no good answers. And the choice that he's made is to do that rather than to say, well, politically, short term, I might not be popular if I do this, so I'm going to let someone else worry about that. And I think that the core I think the people that he reached in his campaign, the people that he created so much hope in, I think they're discouraged that things haven't moved more quickly, but I think they've been a little unrealistic about that. I think things have changed. We have a health care bill that we passed in the United States that the people have been trying to do for 90 years.
Do you think American foreign policy, if we select one or 2 points, for instance, Afghanistan, is it being effective? I mean, the recent Rolling Stone thing with General McChrystal was not fortunate at all. But besides the scandal, do you think the policy is having solid goals, results, objectives?
I think that we have a solid policy that we are and goals that we are trying to pursue. Dealing with a world where terrorists exist, and you want to avoid having states being dominated by terrorists or really becoming terrorist states, is something that's very new. It's not something that any of us have ever had to deal with before.
So it's not a Bush obsession?
You know, no. What this really is, this is a situation where you're looking at it and you're sort of saying there is a threat to our way of life. When I say our, I don't mean just the United States. In fact, when I spoke with someone in Portugal about Afghanistan, somebody in the government, what they said to me was, and I said to them, it was interesting, for me it was very instructive. I said, thank you for your support here. And they looked at me and they said, we're here for us. Because our government, every part of Western society is under siege potentially from people who want to destroy our way of life.
So one thing, President Obama is supposed to come here for the NATO summit in November. What can we expect from his visit? Besides the NATO thing.
We will have...
Is there a special message?
Well, you know what, I think that he will, when he's here, a lot will depend, of course, on what's going on in the world at that particular moment.
Right.
As we know, if we talked about things 6 months ago, we wouldn't have been talking about an oil spill. So it's hard to really tell. I think that what he will do is he will talk about the importance of Portugal as it relates to the NATO alliance. To the long-term strategies that both countries have.
We talk about seas, discoveries, and the importance of protecting the planet. I mean,
he may well. He has not consulted me on what he's going to say yet, so I'm really sort of just guessing right now.
One great speech from Obama was that one where he said that he's building a foundation, and is the one that is preparing the future, but he doesn't know if it's going to be him that will profit from that. Do you think he is going to go for a second term, or is it too early to tell?
Well, what they say is...
You are an insider, so that's why I'm asking you.
I appreciate that. I believe he will run for a second term, and I believe he will be reelected. I believe that it is one of those situations where politics is always a little uncertain, as ask anyone in politics. And as someone once told me many years ago, if you don't like the way things look today, wait till tomorrow, they'll be different. But I do believe he will run for a second term and he'll be reelected, because I think that people will come to realize that fortunately, in the midst of all these crises, we have really a very smart, very capable leader. And just because there aren't easy solutions doesn't mean we wouldn't be a lot worse off if we had someone who was a lot less capable.
Okay, Ambassador, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I hope to see you again.
I look forward to it. Thank you very much for having me.